Hey, I'm about to go level up. I cannot settle for nothing. I never been regular. Always knew I could do better. I finally made it this far and I'm not looking back. Later to see all the time that I put in. Now me and the money are way too attached. Still repping 919. The city is mine and I put it all on the map. Coming for what I deserve. I put in the work. Now I'm about to level up.
We at Resilience Unscripted would like to thank Breaking Barriers Recovery Home for sponsoring this week's episode.
This week's episode of Resilience Unscripted is sponsored by PK Law Group.
Join Blake Media and Mario's Mission on August 8th as the third annual Sober Bash returns to Revere. More information on the Mario's Mission Facebook page.
We're back for another episode of Resilience Unscripted. This week I have Jamie Fitzgerald here with us. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for coming all the way up.
No problem.
So introduce yourself.
Well, as you said, I'm Jamie. I'm also an alcoholic and a drug addict. I've been sober a few years this go around. I've had long-term sobriety and stopped taking my care of myself and slipped up a couple times. But I think since 2013, I've been sober all but I had 2 small relapses and one which lasted a month, which is in the beginning. But I've been pretty much sober and doing the sober thing and, trying to help people pretty much ever since then,
Yeah.
So I grew up in Quincy, Massachusetts. I think we went over the South Shore thing.
Oh, yeah.
We won't have to get into it too much. We already...
Marissa doesn't travel down the South Shore.
Yeah, I know. It's like a bubble around here. I don't know how good of a bubble, but it's
really not
it's
a
a
good
bubble. But I grew up in Quincy. So when I was born, my father was in prison, and at that time, my mother was already struggling with alcohol and some drugs, but mainly alcohol. So my grandmother, the lovely woman that she is, or was, she stepped in to raise myself and my brother Sean. There wasn't really drugs and alcohol in my house, not in my grandmother's house. She didn't allow it. But there was definitely people in my family, and as I said, my parents, but people in my family that, drank and did whatever. And, a few of them ended up having a problem later on down the line. At that time, did they probably? I'm sure maybe my uncles did. Because they're either, sober now or one of them's still active, unfortunately, on the clinic. So it wasn't really around us. It would be at, family reunions and stuff. But, where I grew up, obviously, there was people, doing whatever. And we were always, playing sports in the park. So there was always, older kids, doing whatever in the park. Yeah. I think from a young age, seeing other kids with their parents or at least one of their parents, and then we would go to school events or whatever, and it would just be my grandmother. So I kind of already from a young age felt different, and I think that kind of without me really knowing it kind of fucked me up a little bit because I went to defensive, you know what I mean? I would get, if somebody, where I'm from, we talked a lot of shit, you know what I mean? So those kids always, talking
You
shit.
felt like you had a different dynamic?
Yeah, I definitely had a different dynamic, yeah, for sure. So I felt a little, less than, you know what I mean? So there was, already kind of a chip on my shoulder, per se, and I felt different, and how I compensated for it at that time was, sports, making people laugh, or fighting. Like that's just what we did, and I was pretty good at all three of those, I guess. Enough to those things made me feel good, and then once you got a little older, then the girls took over, or at least got involved, and that's how I would make myself feel, good that in that way too. I didn't really get into a lot of trouble like at a young age. As soon as I turned like 16, 17, that's like when shit started going south. I got kicked out of high school when I was 16, and immediately got my GED. That was something my grandmother forced, and then
My grandmother hated the fact that I dropped out
oh yeah, no, yeah,
and did not accept the fact of a GED.
no, it did. I mean, not that it did anything for me. It was more to just to appease her, because I don't think I've used anything, my GED for anything.
You don't.
You know.
It's common sense.
Yeah. But by the age of 17, next thing you know, now I'm locked up. I didn't really have any juvenile record or anything like that, but turned 17, and next thing you know, I'm locked up. Picked up this big case. It was bullshit, and ended up, getting indicted. And, now I'm 17 years old and I'm going to Superior Court, and, you know what I mean? Like, the whole court system at that time was, like, new to me. But it quickly became, like, second nature. That's how much, I grew up in and out of the courtrooms. Definitely grew up from 17 on in jail, all just stupid, county bids. But, I ended up doing like 7 years of county from just like, just
Consecutively?
no. So I would say from 17, 18 on, I was only, I did, it started off with like the 6-month bid, get out for a month and a half, 18 month bid, get out for a month, deuce and a half, get out for a little bit. The next thing you know, I'm getting a year. So like,
They were progressing.
yeah, in the beginning, like they were pretty much, I got out for like a month, but like they were just like back to back. I remember that at one point there was like, 4. This is the way I kept on looking at it was, especially when I was young. It was just 4 Thanksgivings, Christmases, and New Year's in a row that I was locked up. And like once I started, like at first, like when I first went to jail, like, you know what I mean? Like I have no problem admitting that, yes, was I scared? Definitely. Was I nervous? Absolutely. Because the only thing, like, my father was in prison, but he didn't really talk about it. So the only thing that I really had to gauge it off of was shit that you seen on TV. So I was a little nervous, but quickly, I found out that like, so many people in there too. So it ended up being like a reunion, every time I would leave and come back or whatever. The fears and all that, those went quickly away. You know what I mean? Once I learned how to navigate and just essentially just be myself. I didn't really there wasn't really anything to, obviously you know what I mean. You got to keep your head on a swivel, no matter where you are. But definitely in there. But as far as like being scared or anything like that, that kind of went away. And I didn't really, obviously I could adapt quick. If I got locked up, I wasn't gonna sit there and cry about it or like get down on myself. It just, I luckily I've been able to accept things, no matter what they are, for the most part. So I accepted it and I just, adapted and lived my life and, did whatever we did in there, still friends with a lot of kids, to this day that I was locked up with. Obviously some of them I might not, a lot of them are dead, but some of them I might not hang out with as much if they're not, sober. Yeah, so I just started going in and out of jail, and like I like to say it kind of made me a man. It taught me how to be a man. All the respect thing, you know what I mean? You learn how, I treat people with respect. And, I pretty much, I kind of I demand it back. If I'm not disrespecting you, I don't
Right.
feel like you should be disrespecting me. But that mentality that I got from going to jail and then just doing whatever when I was outside of jail, like that kind of, that fucked me up. It fucked me up just as much as the drugs and alcohol because it held me back. It held me from being, the person that I was supposed to be, like the man that I was supposed to be, who I was raised. That's not how I was raised. It blocked all of that. And I kind of, I held on to that for a long time. Like I was just in a group today talking about, the mentality about like, it's like fucked because like we'll care more about, what some punk or some kid on a street corner or at the park or, whether it be out at the bar or when you're locked up in a cell where we care more about what those people think of me, like what, like how solid is my reputation, you know what I mean? Than about like, how good of a son am I for my grandmother that just raised her 5 kids, now sacrificed, the next 20, 30 years of her life to raise me and my brother, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I care more about what some punk thought about me than like being a good grandson, being a good son, being, you know what I mean? Being a good older brother, role model, you know what I mean? Like that's out the window when you get locked up, hopefully. Yeah, like never mind, like, being a good boyfriend or whatever at the time, it's not even remotely possible. You know what I mean? I didn't really give a fuck about myself, so how could I really give a fuck about other people?
Anybody
you know
else?
what I mean?
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that for I've been in long-term relationships like a lot of my life. Knowing me now and for the past few years, that might come as a surprise or sound surprising because I'm just living my life right now and I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not married or anything like that. So I do what I do. So yeah, like I said, like the mentality,
Your priorities weren't right.
they were warped, because that's like really, that's all I cared about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then just on the same token, like, you know what I mean? Like this big, like, you know what I mean? Nobody's going to disrespect me. Like, and then don't get me wrong. I'm not a fucking killer, by any means. I'm not going to come on this podcast and pretend that I'm like, some hitman or anything like that. I'm not, but I'm also not a punk, or a pussy. And, I would like to just, don't get it twisted. You know what I mean?
I was just starting to wonder where are we going with this
Yeah, no,
conversation?
but so I don't like when I'm talking about like I'm not gonna sit here and glorify
No,
jail
you-
or the mentality or anything like that.
You
because it
expect
wasted my life.
respect to be given back to you if you give it to someone, and that's the
Yeah.
way it should be.
And to this day, you know what I mean. Like I try to treat people with respect because I want
Same.
to be treated with respect.
But I can't say when I'm not treated with respect that I don't.
I don't handle every single one of those situations the right way either.
Same.
You know what I mean? I'm not perfect. You know what I
Same.
mean? I don't act on my impulses as much as I used to. I literally was just saying this in a group today too. There's like, you know what I mean? Like quite frequently in my mind, am I thinking, I would love to smack the shit out of this person, but I don't say it or do it.
Exactly, and that's
like,
growth.
Yeah, and well, I'm gonna be crazy my whole life. You know what I mean? Drug addicts and alcoholics, we just have crazy minds. So my mind's always gonna be crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
My father will say some off the wall shit.
Yeah,
and we'll look at him and be like, "But you can't do that." So it's like,
right? You know what I
he
mean?
knows.
Yeah.
And like, I have mental health, obviously.
Yeah.
I think some
You
things.
do? I'm just kidding.
Of course I do. I think some things that, like, obviously, I'll say to my friends, and my friend will be like, "No, Marissa, don't go do that." And I'm
Yeah.
like, obviously not. But
Oh,
like,
I've been hearing don't go do that my whole life. You don't always have to be, violent. I'm smart enough and, whatever. Like, my mouth is a weapon as well.
do you feel
what
like
I
you're
mean?
always on defense though? Because I do. I feel like I'm always like on defense.
I mean, it it really, like, I'm so used to, like, being around people, like, growing up around people that, like, you know, someone's always, like, even whether it be family, friends, wherever. And then even me, like, when you get to know me, I'm very sarcastic. You know, I talk shit. I like to catch wreck. But, like, I'm so, like, someone's always saying something. You know what I mean? So it's just, like, I'm just, you know.
I just feel like I'm always, like...
I'm pretty quick giving it back. So, like,
Same.
I'm not really, you know, I'm not really worried about it.
I feel like
I just like to say I'm locked and loaded. You know what I mean? Yeah. That, I mean, I guess that's just from just being around a while. You know, I've been through, you know, a lot of situations, good and bad. You know.
Yeah.
So like we'll get back to like, so I had the whole mentality, that whole bullshit that was holding me back, you know what I mean? And then, you know, I start, you know, the drinking and the drugs come along, you know, and, you know, I'd probably say from like the first time I ever got like high or drank any, like I would sneak shit when I was a younger kid, but I don't really consider that doing anything. That's just like trying something. The first time that like I actually like got high or anything like that was like when I was like 14, but that was still...
On what?
Probably weed the first time, you know, then acid, you know, definitely, we were, you know, drinking and shit like that, but, I was still playing, like, a lot of sports then, and I was, you know, still doing whatever, so, like, the drinking and drugs didn't really take over my life until I'd say I was around, like, 16, then I started, like, drinking every day, and then, you know, then we're doing whatever, we're doing acid, mushrooms, pills, you name it, then the coke, you know, then a lot of coke. And that's kind of how it was, you know, in the beginning stages of my thing would be a lot of drinking and a lot of coke, you know, whether it be like going out to the bars.
Party drugs.
Yeah, and the party drugs too, absolutely. But before the, like, you know, party drugs, it was, you know, booze and coke and a lot of it. You know what I mean? And then the ecstasy and all that. Acid was kind of like always like around, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would get locked up and then I would get out and I would think that I had to, you know, make up for lost time. So I would just start ripping and running and, you know, I just didn't know how to stop.
When did you get clean? At what age?
When did I... I drank and did drugs for probably about like, you know, that whole, if you add it all up, like around 30 years. Okay. All right. So I was drinking and doing drugs. I had stints where I would try to get clean. I would go to, you know, the halfway houses, the detoxes, the halfway houses, you know, whatever, bullshit program that I was trying. And, you know, in the beginning, it was for the courts. Right, but it was also to appease my grandmother and people in my family. Like, all right, I'll go. Like, I had no intentions of, you know, not drinking ever again. I was definitely going to drink it. I had reservations, you know what I mean? I just didn't think I had a problem. You know what I mean? To me, like, an alcoholic was some bum with a brown paper bag, you know what I mean? Like, on a park bench.
You didn't think you fit the description?
No. I was doing what everybody else around me was doing.
Yeah.
I was just getting in more trouble than the majority of my friends, you know what I mean? But like I was doing the same shit that the, you know, people right next that my friends were doing, you know what I mean? So I didn't really, you know, I wasn't waking up with the DTs or anything like that. I wasn't shaking, you know what I mean? A little bit like towards the end, but nothing crazy. I had no physical addictions that I know of, but I also didn't give myself enough time to find out either, you know what I mean? Because if we were drinking every day, I you know what I mean, I wasn't giving myself time to find out how I would have felt, you know?
So what age was like the final age that you stopped, went to treatment?
All right, so that's...
Like the final stint.
My life changed for the first, like when I was 38 years old when I went to the Plymouth House. That's when my life, my drinking and my drugging and everything completely changed. All right, so then I went to the Plymouth House, and I didn't go for myself, you know, because I didn't really care enough about myself. You know, I had accepted, I was just at the point where I was, like, stuck, that, like, I was always going to be under some type of mind-altering substance, no matter what it was. I went through every single stage, You know, I drank, I did drugs, I did this, I did that. Like I would smoke weed. You know, I would stop drinking, smoke weed, and
He was
you know,
substituting.
yeah, but yeah, of course, I was definitely substituting. But believe it or not, like I was so like such like a loose cannon. Like when I was younger and getting into so much trouble, like my family didn't care if I smoked weed. You know what I mean? Because I was calm. I was like good downstairs, like or whatever, on the couch, just watching TV, watching sports. You know what I mean? I didn't ever get into any trouble, you know, smoking weed, or I didn't get arrested smoking weed. Not to say that that it's okay. That just wasn't for me. That's not where it brought me. You know what I mean? It calmed me down, and I was just chill.
And it does for some people.
Yeah. So I got sick of seeing, like, you know, my grandmother, my aunt, my mother. You know, I got sick of seeing them crying. I got sick of, you know, seeing and hearing them gasp, like if they would hear, like, you know, like in the courtroom, or if they would come see me at the hospital, or if I was gone for a while and I showed up at the door, like, you know what I mean, like the look, or like the, oh my God, like how I looked, like I thought I looked good, you know what I mean, but like I was probably just, you know what I mean, like you know, a sharply dressed number 2 pencil, and sometimes I wasn't always sharply dressed, you know what I mean? But yeah, I did it for them, you know, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do something. One of my brothers had already went there a year before. Like it's kind of funny because I kind of helped him get it. One of our friends had went there, and you know, this was a kid that had ran around with us and was just as crazy as us, and you know, he left. We didn't see him for a while. Next thing you know, like, you know, we ran into him and he was a completely different person. You know what I mean? So like, what the fuck happened? So that started giving you like some hope. You know what I mean? Like if he could fucking, you know, change, then so couldn't we. I just didn't know how to. You know what I mean? So like, I helped my brother Eddie get to the Plymouth House. He went there first. He was there for about a year prior till I went, and I was at the Hope House, I think at the time, you know, I was trying to get sober. Like, I would try to go to these places. I would try to get sober. But all I was doing was just taking the drugs and alcohol away, and I was still stuck with Jamie. You know what I mean? Like, still stuck with the same person who you know, needed some type of mind-altering substance, because I just didn't like the way I felt when I didn't have it. You know, I couldn't really put, like pinpoint on what the exact feeling was. It just was like that I wasn't okay, discontent, like I didn't feel comfortable. I felt uncomfortable. But you put something in me, now I'm comfortable. Now I can, you know what I mean? Now I can tolerate being around, you know, like my family or whatever. Not that I love my family, but they, you know how it is. They drive you.
Gotta watch how you say that.
Yeah, they drive me nuts, you know? But, yeah, it's just like anybody else's family. Like if sometimes you love them to death, you know what I mean? They drive you nuts.
But they'll drive you crazy.
Right. Nobody else can talk shit about them. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like just one of those things. So I
got it.
I did it. I did it for them, you know. And then I went to this place and, you know, started going through the big book, and, you know, was brought through the doctor's opinion, and that's when, you know, like shit like clicked. Now I understood and realized like what was wrong, you know. Like I always thought that the drugs and alcohol were the problem. No, I was the problem, and that was just like my solution at the time. So they taught me a different solution, and very quickly, I started doing that. Whatever work I was doing on myself at the POs for me now. You know what I mean? And yeah, that place definitely saved my life, saved my brother's life, saved, you know, hundreds, thousands of people that I know, and then like. The ripple effect of that is just fucking insane. You know what I mean? The amount of people that place has helped. Like even for instance, if you just take like, you know, like my brother, the ripple effect, they're like, you know, what my brother's doing, and then you take me. That's just two people that went there. There's plenty of other people that have gone there that work in treatment. But if you take the ripple effect of what my brother's doing these days and what I'm doing these days, and like all the people that we have helped, trying to help, will help, their families, their jobs, you know, their kids.
It's a big impact.
Yeah, it's huge. You know, it's crazy. You don't even think about it. I don't really think about it until like right now when I'm talking about it. You know what I mean? Because it's just it's so normal to me. Like that's like I really believe like that's like what my calling in life is just to help people. You know what I mean?
Same.
I have, you know, and I think that was also pointed out to me that first time I was at the Plymouth House when they were telling me, because I had heard, you have a lot of potential, like my whole life, and like you have a lot, to offer, and I didn't really understand or like even really give a fuck to understand. I didn't really look into it much, but like when they were, I was just like, cool, thank you, I appreciate it. But like when they were there and they were telling me that like, you can help a lot of people, and I was just like, I didn't really get it, you know what I mean? And then they started explaining it to me. Because before, to me, like, my way of helping people was, like, to defend them or to fight for them. Or, oh, you need help moving? All right, I got you. Now it's
a whole different meeting.
Completely different.
What are you doing nowadays to help people?
Nowadays, what am I doing? Nowadays, I am, doing the same thing. So when I first got into... like the recovery field. I did construction my whole life, and I went and started worked for my brother at Rockland Recovery. Shout out to Rockland Recovery. That's like my
great organization.
Second family. My brother's done an amazing thing over there. It's like the it's literally it's the mecca of all programs. You know what I mean? If you can do even remotely close to what they're doing, which nobody is, then you're doing big things. He runs it good. He runs it with good morals. He treats his staff good. He treats his clients good. It's really something that like more people should try to emulate or copy.
Well, don't say that.
What?
Don't let them copy.
Oh, they won't be able to
they can't
succeed. Yeah, they can try. I mean, you can try. It's just knock on wood. Obviously, you got wood on here.
Somewhere.
I don't want anybody catching up to him. I found something. I don't want anybody catching up to him. But no. So he taught me a lot. I'm very grateful to my brother. I don't always get a chance to say it to him that much, but he's the one that gave me the opportunity.
Tell him now.
Because no, he's a pussy. No, I love my brother. And he knows I say that a lot. My brother gave me the opportunity to work into this field because he knew how I was. He's seen what I had to offer. He knew that I was good at helping people. Because even before I got into it, I was always helping people. I would have people come stay in my house and get them into detox or whatever. So I was always trying to help people. But he gave me the opportunity and, really put my foot in the door. He was trying to get me to originally, come on as an alumni coordinator and go do that there for him. But at the time, for me, I was working this prevailing wage job and, I was getting paid, really good money, and I didn't really get paid, good money my whole life. So that was probably at the time, that was the best money that I was making, like $89 an hour, which is good to anybody still to this day.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to let go of the job, so I held on to it, and I finished the job, and then once I was done with the job, then I started talking to my brother again, and I was also a little nervous to like walk away from construction and try something new. Like there's fears around that to pull the trigger, because you know what I mean. But so what he did is he just had me. He's like, I'll have you start off as an RS, and then that's what I did. I started off at the bottom, and I climbed my way up. You know what I mean? Like my brother was like people might, oh, you work for your brother? Yeah, work for you. You try working for your little brother, who knows what the fuck he's doing and knows what he's talking about, and then he has a brother who just, thinks he knows what he's doing. Does know what he's doing, but thinks he knows more about what he's talking about than my brother, who actually runs the place. So sometimes we would, butt heads, but he was just trying to you know what I mean, make me a better version of me, and you know what I mean, like tell me like, because I'm used to working on construction sites, so like how we talk and communicate on a construction site or whatever.
Way different than
in a clinical setting. You know what I mean? And I'm still one of the people that's kind of crazy and an HR nightmare, no matter where I work, because I still, say crazy shit. But I'm also smart enough to not take it too far. So I worked at that place. I worked there for a couple of years or whatever, and then I did great. I did great there, and then I made a stupid mistake. I got into a position where I wasn't taking care of myself. It's like I always have this thing where I don't balance enough. Like I'm always putting all of me into everybody else and not enough into me.
I get that.
And then you get resentful, then you get you get jealous, and envy, Start to feel like you're getting taken advantage of, all these things that, weren't necessarily true. And, I made a mistake and I fucked up and then there was some consequences with that. And, what the consequences was that I stepped away from this field for a little bit. I went back into the union, started, hop right back on with my buddies and started working with them. And then, I got recruited off of a roof essentially, to go work at, Hillside Detox. I don't know if you're familiar
I know
with
Hillside.
it. All right. Hillside Detox is, it's a very nice detox. It's a big detox. It's fucking zoo, but for commercial detoxes and stuff like that, it's very nice. And then I worked there for 2.5 years, and I'd like to think that everywhere I go, I climb. I just keep climbing. You know what I mean? I keep going there and exceeding expectations. By far.
What did you do there?
So there, I was AMA blocker and aftercare.
Nice.
So I mean, in my opinion, it's probably one of the most important positions. Inpatient, it's also one of the most difficult. It's like it's 24/7 job. I guess if you want to be good at that position, it's a 24/7 job. There's some people that don't, take their job as serious and don't work.
They half in, half out.
Yeah, well, and then they wonder why they're not getting raises, and then they wonder why they suck, and they wonder why they can't, stop people from leaving, or wonder why they can't, change somebody who's dead set on going to aftercare, and that next thing you know, now you have them going to aftercare, you ain't going to sober living, you know what I mean? So you get what you put into it, you know what I mean? So I knew that, like, from watching my brother and my brother, seeing how my brother worked, and him teaching me, what it takes, and then just me always wanting to be available, but always wanting to get better and make a good name for myself. And that's what I did. I just went in there and busted my ass. That's a sacrifice. It's like you sacrifice time with your family, you sacrifice time with any relationships, anything like that. Your personal life takes a huge hit. So it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? So me, I just, I took it and ran with it. I used both of those places as to build my resume, per se. You know what I mean?
What did you do after that?
So after that, what I'm currently doing right now.
Is that what you did after Hillside?
So I worked at Rockland, then I worked at Hillside for 2.5 years. Now I work, somewhere else. So while I was at,
What do you do currently?
I help, I'm managing partner of 2 facilities.
Awesome.
HeartFelt Recovery and Real Recovery.
Great programs.
Yep, they're both great programs. There's, a lot of great people that work there. My buddy Scott, who's also my partner, he did, it's pretty, impressive to see what, what he was able to do with no experience. He was given a shot, you know what I mean? Someone took a leap of faith and invested in him, and with no experience and really not a lot of, not a lot of people in the recovery field for some reason, whatever it is, paid him any mind or helped him, too much in the beginning. So he did a lot of it, on his own, hired some good people, I chose to, even not really knowing him that well in the beginning, I seen what was going on and I didn't really like it, you know what I mean? And I made a decision that, you know what I mean, just an altruistic decision, you know what I mean? I wasn't looking, I'm going to help this dude any way that I can, because I don't like the way that, you know what I mean, he's not in the clique per se, or whatever cliques there are, fuck the cliques, you know what I mean? But don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good people that do big things in the recovery field, but there's a lot of scumbags. Yeah. There's a lot of full of shit people. There's a lot of just people that are literally just out for the money, that don't give a fuck.
They don't care.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just, should pick a different field, different line of work, in all departments, if as soon as you start forgetting where you came from, and then now you're looking down at or treating this person in front of you, like you're better than them. You know what I mean?
It's a big
like
problem.
yeah, it's a big problem. You know, and like I said, like I don't do everything perfect, but I don't forget where I came from. I don't forget that I'm a drug addict or an alcoholic, and I don't forget how it felt like to sit in those chairs or to be whatever, sick in bed, to sitting in the group rooms. You know what I mean? Like I don't forget how that feels. So I try to treat everybody that I'm helping with, with respect, and I try to get to know them, and I think that that's like I said, like helping people is my calling, but like how I am with people is just like a gift from God that I got, you know what I mean? Because I can talk to, somebody that's, on Mass Ave or just got off Mass Ave or some multi-millionaire, you know what I mean? I can talk to anybody.
People person.
Yeah, I'm a people person.
That's
exactly.
good, and that's what's needed in recovery.
It is. Yep.
Because
it
there's
is.
millionaires that have addiction.
Oh, absolutely.
Need help.
Absolutely. Nobody's exempt in this.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Nobody's exempt in this. Like some people, like to think that, oh, that wouldn't happen to me and my family. You know what I mean? People that come, it's like, okay, cool. And then they want to look down on drug addicts and alcoholics, or they want to look down on people. Yeah, look down on them. Until that day, you got to look down at your phone and use one of our phone numbers and call us. You know what I mean? Then you're not looking down at us anymore. Then you're thanking us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like a good person, won't throw that back in their face.
Right.
They'll just go. They'll go above and beyond to help either that person or their loved one to really show them like how you will, perceive this and how you were viewing drug addicts and alcoholics was really wrong. You know what I mean? And hopefully you can get them by leading by example and them seeing you can get them to completely shift how they feel about drug addicts and alcoholics. And they most likely will if they have a loved one that's struggling and you help that loved one, or they see you like, nonstop trying to help that one, and you know what I mean?
It opens their eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think my wrap-up question's gonna be.
I have no idea what your wrap-up questions are.
All right, so where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Jesus.
He's like, first shut
up. Where do I see myself in 5 years?
Don't kill me for asking this question.
No, I don't. I'm definitely not going to kill you, but I'm also not going to give you. I can't give you too much of the information without, telling. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like, you like to keep.
Well, don't show all your cards.
Exactly. So, like, what you like to, like, what you got, in the books, or like what you're planning, you don't really want to necessarily let.
What's one big goal?
I think that.
In the next 5 years?
So put it this way. So right now, we work outpatient. We have a couple places. We'd like to have like all different types of, our own areas and departments from when it comes to inpatient, outpatient,
Enough said.
A few other things, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But 5 years, I would like to hope and think that I'm, still crushing it, that I have, at that point, invested in, some other businesses, real estate, stuff like that.
Real estate's huge. Like, I love real estate.
I mean,
if I was smart enough to pass the test, I would do it.
I'd love to be married in 5 years, but we'll see how that goes. I just haven't found the right one. And some people are going to hear me say that, and they're going to...
Don't feel bad.
I don't give a fuck.
It's horrible out there.
They'll laugh. They'll laugh just because they know me. So people think that just the way that I live my life right now, that I'm actually not, that's not. I just haven't found the right one. Once I find the right one, then I'll slow down and I'll chill. But right now, you only live once, so that's what I'm doing. I'm living.
You only live once.
What do you think? What do you know?
What do I know?
What do you feel about the recovery community?
Oh, you're going to ask me questions
now?
Oh, I love this.
This is what we do. Yep.
I think, and I had this discussion with my dad this morning.
Yeah.
He is the one that's in recovery.
Yeah.
Long term, over 30 years.
Good for
I'm
him.
the one that's the mental health person here. There's got the problems.
It's crazy. We're all crazy.
Yeah,
now.
sure.
Yeah.
It's good and bad. It has its good and its bad. And what we talked about this morning was a lot of times people love you until you can't give something to them anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And that was like prime example when we had our house. Like, if I was able to give you an in-house scholarship, if I was able to find you another scholarship, if I can get you clothes out of my own closet, I was great. But then you're not following the rules and I'm the biggest bitch that you know. And then you're bad-mouthing me for the next 6 months. So it's like, I feel, and those are character defects that come with people that are evolving and learning and changing and how to like reestablish their life. But I think that the community is great. I think it can be inclusive. I think it can also be very cliquey.
Yeah.
I think that there are people that monetize things more than they should.
Right.
And that's the priority over the person that's struggling. Right. And I feel that if everybody could focus on one particular thing that could make them a better person and be an asset instead of a liability, we'd be in a better position.
Right.
That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and that's good, and I agree completely. And I don't know if they can do some editing on this, because the reason why I brought up, you know, the my partner Scott and like what he was able to do, you know, the kid was able to, you know.
He's a smart kid.
He got with no experience and not a lot of people helping him. He got one facility going to the point where then he was able to be successful there and then open up another one. Yeah. You know, a lot of people that
I went up to New Hampshire. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you've been up there, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people that have been in this field and that have a lot of connects are still not able to do that. You know what I mean? So like, you know, like you I like to give credit where it's due. Like there's a lot of people that, you know, that are in this field that like I have a lot of respect for, because I've seen what they've done and I know how they are as people, you know what I mean? And you know, Scott is one of them, you know what I mean? Because like sometimes you have
he's a good-hearted person.
Yeah, but you know how it is, like in any field, like you have people that work for you and then all of a sudden you have disgruntled employees, and then next thing you know they want to run their mouth and they want to talk shit. You know
who you're talking to, right?
You might know a little bit about this, right? But so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then it's like, okay, then you have people that have never had a conversation with this gentleman that you're coming up with a view or an opinion. Why don't you sit down and have a conversation with them, right? I know you know all about this. Sit down and have a conversation.
It's bad.
With this person, and then you tell me how you feel.
After that.
And another thing is like a lot of people, like they know me, they know my character, right? Do you honestly think that I would like go partner up and go, you know, surround myself with somebody that like, you know, these, you know, that type of shit's being said about every day? Absolutely not. So
it's because you know him for him. You took a chance.
Yes.
See him for him.
Exactly.
People, and I will say it, there's a warped perception in recovery that people don't change. Everybody makes mistakes. I can assure you that when people are actively using, they're making mistakes. Those mistakes are not forgotten.
Oh, no.
Like, the community does not forget.
Right.
So what makes it any different if you're using and make a mistake, or if you're not using and make a mistake?
Right. Well, you should know better. That's the thing. When you're not using, you should know better.
True.
You know what I mean? But to an extent, depending on what the mistake is.
If it's such an inclusive community, right, and you're supposed to forgive and move on, it shouldn't matter whether the excuses that you were using, that you weren't using, we're all humans.
Right.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah, well, that's just people being hypocrites. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm one of those same people that, like, I believe, like, I'll give anybody a chance. I think that people can change. People gave me so many chances. You know what I mean?
I gave somebody over 5 times to live in the house.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We got that.
I think it was close to 10, and it was like, and people were looking at me like, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I'm like, rather than the person be homeless, because I would never forgive myself if they were out on the street homeless and died.
You help people. I help people the way I want to help people.
Exactly.
I don't like. There's no like. I don't like. I'm not gonna like when I try to help this person. Be like, I wonder how fucking Stevie's gonna feel about this. Fuck Stevie.
Right.
I'm helping this person the way that I want to help them. I sleep well at night.
Exactly.
If the way that like if you give people like chances, some people are like, oh, that's enabling them. Okay, so then you put yourself in my shoes, like what you just said.
Exactly.
You want this person to be homeless, or should we give him another shot and see where it goes? And then at some point down the line, if nothing's changing, then maybe we go separate ways, no hard feelings. But like the way that I help people and the way that you're gonna help people is gonna be different than the way other people are.
Well, let me just say this:
you know?
For the things that have been said, and like you said, people say things about people.
Yeah.
For the things that have been said about me, half of it has been truth twisted or complete bullshit.
That's usually how it all
and
is.
I can lay my head on my pillow at night knowing I tried my damnest to help every single person that walked through that door. Because when they first came in and when they were living there, they loved me.
Yeah,
and then
of course.
as soon as they got joined into the recruiter, the recruiter came along of the
or if
training,
you didn't have anything more to offer them or give them,
then their perception was twisted and it was warped.
The true colors.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So like I feel everybody deserves a chance to get clean.
Absolutely.
Everybody, whether you like the person that owns the company that they're going to or the house that they're going to, that shouldn't negate the fact that they're there for recovery.
They're a human being that needs help.
I don't agree with the popularity contest shit. I'm sorry.
Of course, everything.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't like it either. You know what I mean? Like that, but it is what it is. I accept how certain things are. You know what I mean? And I'm still gonna do my thing. I'm gonna live my life. I'm gonna help people the way that I help people. Like and you know what I mean? Like and people, you know, they call back and you know what tells me if I did, you know, why like a good job or if like what makes me feel good about this is when I start seeing people change that I knew were a train wreck when they came in.
Yeah. I
start seeing them make improvements, right? But I also hear it from their family and how grateful and how thankful their family are. You know what I mean? When their families, you've had numerous conversations that started off with them crying, bawling their eyes out. You know what I mean? Just like getting tortured. You know what I mean? To now be like, you know, happy, smiling, laughing, saying thank you so much. You know, all this. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
It's principles over personalities, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has is it niche? Is that the word? I don't even know. Maybe that's the word. In this industry, whether it's how they run groups, whether it's who their clinicians are, whether it's their house and they have a TV in every room, whatever it may be, something of your program stands out to somebody. So it's like, you know, someone's going to fit in wherever they go. And it's not that if for them, it's for them. If it's not, it's not.
Exactly.
You can't force somebody to follow a program. You can't force somebody to go to sober living. You can't force somebody to go to meetings. You could try to advocate for them the best you can. And I know...
Make it attractive.
Exactly.
That's
and
what it
I
is.
know for me, as a person, I was, I think, 24 when I got into this industry. Maybe 23. I started by fundraising with the small business that I had and giving it to different organizations. Then we started with the nonprofit. Then we went to the houses. And now I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus from everything I went through. Does it not mean that I don't want to go back to work because Sally, Jill, and I don't know, Susan over here, I'm going to use names that don't really have any significance, say that I shouldn't? Absolutely not. I was able to help people that I know have reached out to me when I closed and said, thank you. I'm not dead. I want to thank you.
Exactly.
That to me means that I did a good job.
Exactly.
If I don't fit, if you're, I almost swore. I want to say a fucking criteria to fit in your glee club. So be it. We're doing things to help people.
Exactly.
That's all that matters. You know, families down the line are appreciative of what we have offered or can offer to their loved ones. And you know what? They're alive, they're well, and they're not suffering. And that's what matters. And God forbid it ever went in the other direction. I would feel completely bad. And knock on wood.
I've seen it.
It never has, but
in the other direction. I've been around, you know, unfortunately, like, you know, a lot of death. You know, this is this shit's crazy. You know what I mean? Like something, you know, we drink and do drugs, like, you know, like we're trying to die. You know, and sometimes a lot of people, like, they are like, outside looking in. If you looked at my life, you would have thought like this kid's trying to die. I wasn't, but at the same time,
you thought you were having a good time.
I just was trying to get so annihilated that I didn't have to think about anything else. You know. In the beginning, I was definitely having a
See, you
good
got me
time.
down an avenue I didn't want to go down on this podcast.
I wasn't really trying to. But,
you asked that
whatever.
question.
But whatever we just talked about right now, we were supposed to talk about.
Exactly.
So if I asked a question, that was just making conversation.
See, I try not to talk about it because then they're like, oh, she talked about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I should.
Yeah.
Because of everything.
Yeah. But the thing is like, I don't even know, you know, all the details or whatever of what you are talking about. Like, I've heard, like, you know, whispers or whatever. I've seen stupid shit, you know, like, online and stuff like that. But
that's the other thing.
That doesn't prevent me. That does not prevent me from coming here and meeting you myself.
And learning me from me.
And getting and basing my opinion of, like how I feel about you, what I think about you off of, like, my interaction.
Right.
Not off of, like...
But see, that's how I was raised, too. Like, you know
mean?
Somebody and you get to know them yourself.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to end with this. I think a lot of these groups on Facebook are great. And, you know, there's even Reddit groups, believe it or not, which is ridiculous for basically resources. But if you want to share experience, that's fine. I agree with that. It's like when you buy a car off a dealership and if you have a bad experience, you say you had a bad experience. If you have a good experience, you're going to rant and rave and send all your friends there. That's part of being, a consumer
Right.
in any
Yeah.
industry. What I can't condone is the bullshit that goes online.
Yeah, I know. I
about
don't really.
It's absurd.
I didn't have social media. I didn't have Facebook or nothing like that. I still don't even have an Instagram, even though everybody tells me to get one. But until I got into this field, because getting Facebook is another way.
And I'm grandma.
Yeah, your grandma. Yeah, is another way that just because I like it's my business. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really like I don't. The reason why I didn't do social media first, one, I'm not tech savvy. Everybody know, like if you know me, I'm not good with it. But I'm also like I don't want my business like out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other thing is,
You sound like my dad.
Like the other thing is like you got somebody like running their mouth on Facebook, right? Like I don't do that shit. Like I like you know what I mean? Like
The old Marissa would do it
like
in person.
we'll pull you know what I mean? My buddy will pull a Mikey Legs and we'll drop a ping. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit there and run. You know what I mean? You want to run your mouth? Why don't we meet
up
up
and talk?
and have a discussion like a man, and we'll see how that discussion goes. So that's why I don't like it. I don't like when people start, running their mouths on about anybody really. You know what I mean? Because it's like you mean your keyboard. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you're real tough behind
Take the
your
keyboard
phone
away. Take
at
the
2
phone away.
2:00 in the morning.
And I guarantee you, they're not meeting with you.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's
not that I'm suggesting.
Like for me, social media should be, talk about people doing good things.
Exactly, which is what I was getting.
Or family stuff. You know what I mean? Like for me, like my stuff, or like friends and events, like good events, like I don't really post. I don't post shit about like myself on Facebook. Any pictures or anything like that is just like I'll be in pictures with my friends or my family, and
I gotta stop.
And one of them will post. I'm just. But I have no problem posting. Like I like to say happy birthday to people. Everybody likes to make fun of me because I like to say happy birthday to everybody. I'm just being nice. I'm just, I love everybody's shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what I do. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to, like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
The
like,
bottom line of what we're saying here is just be nice.
Oh, like, and be yourself. Don't worry about.
There's no need
other
for
people,
for the shit.
Yeah. And hey, at the end of the day, we're not perfect. We're gonna make
None
mistakes, but
myself included.
I try to live my life in a way where I'm helping people and not hurting people these days. You heard?
This wraps up episode 37 of Resilience Unscripted. Bye.